I want to talk about the likely destinations for released WWE talent. I have a list of all 6 and where I believe they are more likely to drop based on what they've said in interviews, comments that the different companies have made about what they like in talent, and other than that, simply sources that I have spoken to from those companies, from sources in WWE, about the perception of these talents. I will start with Braun Strowman, and I believe his most likely landing spot is Impact Wrestling. Big Show, now Paul White, and Mark Henry are likely to advocate for Braun Strowman. However, to my knowledge, AEW has very little interest in Braun himself. Now, Braun is not the same guy he was when he said about people not finding work, not wanting to work on the indies and the like. He's not the same guy. He has humbled himself quite a bit over the last year or so. I believe it's the influence of people like Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and indeed Vince McMahon as well. Braun is extremely loyal to Vince because he did get a very, very strong push and he did get a championship and the like. So he's not the same man that he was in that regard, but I still believe that somewhere like AEW are unlikely to take the punt. I also don't believe Braun has much interest in leaving the United States, so I think Impact Wrestling is the most likely next destination for Braun Strowman. I also believe Impact would throw as much money as it takes to get Braun Strowman because they need big, if you'll pardon the pun, big impact players. Braun will definitely take a significant pay cut wherever he goes next. Next, I'll talk about Aleister Black, and this is the only one where I've got 2 destinations. I believe there will be a significant push from New Japan and AEW to sign Aleister Black, which makes me believe he will be both. It is very possible that you can do both. Look at Jon Moxley, even though he cannot wrestle for New Japan in the United States. Lio Rush works for both companies, even though it's a handshake agreement. Cody Rhodes worked for both companies for a while when it comes to working with Ring of Honor and then New Japan, and even though he doesn't work for both now, he did work for multiple companies on a similar deal. Outside of WWE, a lot of wrestlers work for multiple promotions. I believe Aleister Black will work for indie promotions, New Japan and AEW going forwards, much like Jon Moxley following his lead in that regard. Ruby Riott, I believe, will be going to All Elite Wrestling. They are working on their women's division there. She's a very experienced talent who can be a real locker room leader for the women there. I believe Ruby Riott will go to AEW, but there is also a strong push from, for example, Ring of Honor, who are looking to add experience and depth to their women's division going forward. So I think Ring of Honor will push, but AEW will ultimately win that war. Lana, I believe, is already going to AEW. This is based on comments that she has made on Twitter recently, but also, let's be fair, I simply believe Lana is ideal for AEW. She has that reality show experience that can really work somewhere like Being the Elite, for example. I think Lana is perfect for AEW, even if I don't think she'll be in ring all that much, and I believe she will be reunited with Miro in no time. Buddy Murphy, there is no doubt for me that Buddy Murphy is aiming for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think he will follow the Will Ospreay career path, essentially going into New Japan, working with the juniors for a brief time, heading into the heavyweights after a strong G1 showing, and ultimately I think Buddy Murphy can be a future Gaijin IWGP heavyweight champion. He's a very talented man, but he will have to get rid of a few of his moves. Finally, Santana Garrett, I believe, will land in Impact. I believe she will be returning to Impact. Even though she wasn't made the biggest name in WWE, I don't believe there'll be that strong a push for her services, but she will still have suitors. I believe her heart will win out, and her heart is in Impact Wrestling. That is the likely destination based on the information that I have and the sources that I have spoken to as to all of the released talents from the WWE in this batch. Braun Strowman, I believe, is going to Impact. Aleister Black will work for a multitude of promotions, but primarily New Japan and AEW. I believe Ruby Riott will land in AEW. Lana will land in AEW. I think Buddy Murphy will go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, follow the Will Ospreay path, and Santana Garrett will work for Impact Wrestling.